Okay, before we get started on the original video I made, I want to make a point of strongly suggesting you watch the tail end of this video. And no, it's not some gimmicky BS to make you watch longer. It's just, after I finished the original video, I stumbled into some really juicy and very embarrassing details about this completely genuine, hardworking California Democrat single mother of three. You have to include the single mother of three part or you're, I don't know, racist or something. Anyways, let's get started. I think it's pretty obvious at this point to most people paying attention anyways that the Democrat Party is almost entirely made up of typecast characters, probably conjured up in a DNC-funded writer's office in South Hollywood somewhere. Now, the old guard, not so much anymore, but the younger Democrats all seem to have one or two unique distinguishing characteristics that set them apart and are there solely to appeal to a certain demographic of voter, like this communist soccer mom from California. Representative Katie Porter of California has, of course, consistently blamed criticism of her performance in office on sexism, like any good neoliberal politician would. But she also recently piloted a new little victimization narrative for herself by complaining about racism, just to shake things up, I guess. Porter's recent cry of racism comes in the context of her travels through the corporate media circuit to promote herself as demented Dianne Feinstein's replacement as one of California's two senators. As part of her campaign, Porter graced ABC's The View, toxic cesspit of performative feminism that it is for a daytime TV propaganda tour. Now, in doing so, one of the cooperative hosts teed Porter up with a softball question about the recent scandals that have engulfed her office. Quote, "We see, and I saw this as a professor certainly, female professors, particularly women of color, get much worse teaching evaluations," Porter explained. Quote, "We see this again and again. Lots of the so-called bad bosses are women and disproportionately people of color," unquote. Here's a clip.
Congresswoman Katie Porter took a break from writing her incredibly effective whiteboard breakdowns in the House to write a funny and inspiring new memoir called, I Swear, Politics is Messier Than My Minivan. Please welcome back the fabulous and really smart Congresswoman Katie Porter.
Yeah. Well, I do want to take a minute to ask you about another allegation. There had been some reports that alleging that you created a toxic workplace for staff, and I want to give you a chance to respond.
Yeah, look, I am incredibly proud of my staff. The book is actually dedicated to my staff and my volunteers, and I say this in the book and the dedication, and it's true. I may stand in front of them, but they are really the ones leading the way. For every viral moment you see, for every whiteboard that I get the words spelled correctly, and I know what I'm talking about, there's a ton of amazing people behind me and helping me, and I'm so grateful for them. You know, I think we see, and I saw this as a professor, certainly, female professors, particularly women of color, get much worse teaching evaluations.
Yes.
And even when all the professional evaluations are the same. And so we see this again and again. Lots of the so-called bad bosses are women and disproportionately people of color. I think it's really unfortunate because those are the very voices we need more of in our government. So I'm proud of my staff. I'm proud of the relationship we've built. I'm proud to have them as my team moving forward.
So let me ask you.
Now, I certainly understand that the reason this claim is so ludicrous does not need to be explained, and that doing so is kind of an insult to the audience's intelligence. But for the sake of journalistic thoroughness, and honestly because I enjoy doing so, here we go anyway. Now, Porter is perhaps one of the whitest members of Congress in a sea of Martha's Vineyard-style whiteness, in her demeanor, in her oratory style, in her dress, in her sensibilities. Honestly, she's probably one of the whitest members of the human race. I mean, let's be clear, as Kamala says. Every single thing about Porter screams upper crust white liberal. If you closed your eyes and conjured an image of a white feminist liberal, Porter and her menopausal hairstyle and her pantsuit should immediately come to your mind. There is absolutely nothing remotely person of color-ish about her, no matter how bad she wishes there were for all the political protection that it incurs to horrendous political figures such as herself. You see, the more that people like Porter expose themselves to the public, the less likable, naturally, the public receives them. Because the reality is, she's just another self-hating, nasty old heifer from high-end gated California suburbs. It just is what it is. She wears it like her nose. Porter recently appeared on Bill Maher's show in anticipation of more fawning adoration, which she sadly largely received from his very low IQ audience. However, any positive coverage that she may have garnered for herself while there was overshadowed by her transparently ignorant smear of swimmer Riley Gaines, who she hates because Gaines is everything she is not, if we're honest. This was swiftly fact-checked by Piers Morgan, of all people. Speaking of shameless grifters, here's a clip.
Nobody, including Riley Gaines, who I disagree with strongly, should be
What do you disagree with, out of interest?
I think that it should be up to sporting bodies to make the decisions about who and
What
how
has she
should
said
compete.
that's actually wrong?
I think that what she has done is try to turn this. We talked about people, using things to kind of get likes and get clicks.
That's not what she's doing.
It's not?
I've got no truck for Riley Gaines personally, but all I've seen her do is stand up for women's rights to.
Piers Morgan firing back at Democratic Congresswoman Katie Porter, who claims former Kentucky swimmer Riley Gaines is only fighting for women's sports because she wants attention.
And Piers Morgan joins us now. After his luxury flight back to England, Piers is giving us a little time. I saw him putting on social media all his fancy meals on his airplane, steak and shrimp and wine. No, we're happy to have you with us this morning, Piers. You know what I found fascinating about this exchange? You reveal the utter ridiculousness of this entire movement by simply asking her a question, one question. What do you disagree with about Riley Gaines?
Well, first of all, Will, great to see you without your ballet clothes on today. I had to sit through you were tutoing on Saturday. I'm still quite traumatized, to be honest. So, anyway, good to see you in normal gear today. Look, here's the deal with this. It was a very simple question because she was clearly very angry about Riley Gaines. But when I actually said, well, what is it you disagree with? She froze. She had no answer. And it was a startling moment, I think, particularly given that the Bill Maher show is a pretty liberal show, has a very liberal audience who all began cheering me on and not the female would-be senator. And it's an extraordinary state of affairs when two, middle-aged men, me and Bill Maher, were standing up vociferously for women's rights to fairness and equality, and a woman congresswoman who wants to be a senator was incapable of doing that. And that, to me, exposed the fragility at the heart of this woke position on this whole transgender debate.
Yes.
That's a great way to put it.
Earlier this year, Katie unfairly denounced and fired one of her staff due to her very apparent scientific illiteracy related to the bat stew. She appears to know as much about the SARS-CoV-2 virus as she does about the competitive advantage that the T people swimmers enjoy, which is to say, very, very little at all. The text thread of the firing was shared on Twitter with the former employee's approval. It starts out, "Why did you not follow office protocol on testing? It's really disappointing," unquote. "I'm terribly sorry, you're right. I should have done better. Just because I felt okay in the moment doesn't mean that I was," unquote. Katie continues, "Sasha, I can't allow you back in the office, given your failure to follow office policies. Cody will be in touch about having your personal effects shipped or delivered to your home, and will lay out your remote work schedule and responsibilities for your last few weeks." Sasha responds, quote, "I understand. Thank you for the last 2 years and all that I have learned. I hate to have disappointed you in the manner, as I know it isn't an excuse. I had found out my friend from the Navy had been murdered, and my head was not in the best place. Not an excuse, but the reason for the lack of forethought. I appreciate everything this office has done for me," unquote. Katie responds, and this is kind of funny, "Well, you gave me COVID, period. In 25 months it took you not following the rules to get me sick. My children have nobody to care for them." It's always interesting to see how these power-hungry psychos treat their little minions, isn't it? Okay, now here is the juicy stuff I found after creating the original video. So here we go. The former husband of Representative Katie Porter said the California Democrat frequently abused him verbally and threw toys, books, and other objects at him during their marriage, even pouring scalding hot mashed potatoes on his head during a fight, according to divorce records. Matthew Hoffman, who filed for divorce, that's right, he filed for divorce from Porter in 2013, said in a request for a restraining order, that's right, he requested a restraining order dating April 30th of that year, that he was routinely called a effing idiot and effing incompetent by his rage-prone spouse, who also shattered a glass coffee pot on their kitchen counter in March of 2012 when she felt their house wasn't clean enough. Oh, but it gets so much better, folks. Quote, "She would not let me have a cell phone because she said you're too effing dumb to operate it," Hoffman said of Porter 49, who had also been accused of ridiculing former members of her staff. Hillary Clinton must be oh so proud. And the hits keep coming. Quote, "When she gets angry, she will claw and scratch her arms and then say to me, 'Look what you made me do,'" Hoffman also said in the records first obtained by DailyMail.com. Quote, "She regularly says that I am a bad parent in front of our kids. Recently, the children began spitting at me and throwing their food at me, calling me bad daddy." Well, folks, I think I may have possibly found my new favorite Democrat. What's that you say? You want to know the particulars about the mashed potatoes? Well, here we go. In 2006, Hoffman said Porter took issue with how Hoffman was preparing mashed potatoes for dinner, asking him, quote, "Can't you read the effing instructions?" Then her ex-husband said, Porter raised a ceramic bowl of steaming hot potatoes and dumped it on my head, burning my scalp, unquote. Now, in response to Hoffman's allegations, Porter, then a professor of bankruptcy law at the University of California, Irvine in Orange County, claimed in her own request for a restraining order that her ex ordered her out of the house on April 24, 2013, and called her a dumb bitch, a, quote, despicable person, and, quote, effing evil, before adding that she should rot in hell. Well, I just happen to agree with him on all four parts there. According to Porter, Hoffman then raged at the couple's son, Luke, telling the child, quote, "You have taken a bad situation and made it 1,000 times worse," unquote. Hoffman also allegedly punched a bathroom light switch until it shattered and threw a newspaper at her. Well, I mean, all things considered. In her first congressional campaign, Porter referred to herself as, quote, a victim of domestic violence. Because of course she did. How's that go? They always accuse you of doing exactly what they are doing? Anyways, and her House biography touts her as, quote, a single mother of 3 school-aged kids, unquote. Quote, "I don't have a shady background," she told Huffington Post in May of 2018. "I'm the most boring person in America. I'm a mom of 3 kids. I protect my family. I ended a marriage that was troubled," unquote. The third-term Congresswoman is running against 2 other House Democrats, Representative Adam Schiff and Representative Barbara Lee, to replace Senator Dianne Feinstein, who announced in February she would not seek re-election. You know, the earth could open up and swallow all 4 of these characters, and the world would be a much better place. Porter, a former Harvard law student and protege of progressive Senator Elizabeth Warren, that explains a lot, doesn't it, folks? Anyways, she appeared on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert this week to tout her new memoir titled, quote, "I swear, politics is messier than my minivan," unquote. The Orange County lawmaker may be best known for using props such as whiteboards and committee hearings when grilling congressional witnesses, and even dressing as Batgirl on the day the House first voted to impeach President Donald Trump in 2019. During the prolonged vote series that determined the next Speaker of the House this past January, Porter could be seen in the chamber reading the self-help book, quote, The subtle art of not giving a freak, I guess I should say. In December, a Navy veteran who worked for Porter accused the Congresswoman of dismissing sexual harassment allegations made by another staffer and cracking off-color jokes about race. Well, of course, every Democrat does both of those things, right? Anyways, that's about it for that one. Most of this came by way of PJ Media. If you liked it, hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Leave a comment down below. There's a PayPal link in the description box, so please put $1 in the bucket on the way out the door. I'd like to thank everyone for all your donations. They're much needed and much appreciated. Now, with all that being said, we'll see you next time.
All right. Come on, move. Move. Easy, easy.